So we're here with our new interim pastor, Mike Smith, and we want to just give you a chance to know Mike a little bit better. And so Stephen Colbert used to do a segment on his Colbert Report called Better Know a District, where he would interview congressmen. And so we'll call this Better Know a Pastor. And so try to give you guys a little bit of a chance to know a little more about Mike, his background, and some of his passions. So why don't we start by telling us a little bit about you and your family?
Okay. Well, I grew up in a country setting on a dairy and beef farm, of all things. And I don't miss that life, but it was invaluable growing up. Grew up in an alcoholic family, though, and my grandmother essentially raised me, set me on the course to get an education, probably set my morals, all kinds of things. The family is scattered now. I've got a daughter in Alaska, a son in Nashville. We're here, and that's about all the family I have left.
Okay. And tell us a little bit, I know Bruce talked a little bit this morning, but for those that weren't in the building today, tell us a little bit about how you and Grace met.
Well, we both enrolled as freshmen at Belmont University, Belmont College at the time. And I had completed the enrollment process, the old-fashioned kind, going through punch cards, all that. Came out onto the porch of the only academic building the school possessed at the time. And a guy was sitting at a table with many other tables. There were all kinds of clubs there recruiting. And he waved at me and beckoned me over, and I went, being a freshman. And he said, "Look, I've got to get some lunch. Would you watch my table?" Now, I'm not going to tell you the name of the club. It's one I would never have joined, no matter what.
Right, we all have those places in our past.
Yes, but being a freshman, I said, okay, and I sat down. And shortly after I had sat down, a little young woman came walking up to the table, and we introduced ourselves to each other. I found out where she was working on the campus, showed up for dinner that night, and 4 years later, we married.
Yeah, that's great. So I suppose it was probably during that time at Belmont when you began to have a sharpening of your sense of calling to ministry. How far back does that go? Tell us about your sense of your calling.
Well, I think my sense of calling had been growing without me knowing it for years. It grew in Gladeville Baptist Church, where I attended. I think it was working under the surface for years, but it really began to grow on me during my freshman year at Belmont. I entered Belmont as a physics and math major, determined to have a career in science. But at the end of that year, I realized that God was pulling me toward ministry. That's how it felt to me. I made the decision to accept that call. And the other part of that, though, is I immediately changed majors. I became a religion major, an English major, and I wound up with minors in philosophy and, of all things, physics along the way. And from there, just pursued the call. Became a pastor around the latter part of my 19th year, and have kind of been at it ever since.
Yeah. Now, and you have been at this for a long time. So, what are some of your favorite things about pastoring and about church? Some of the things that you just love about this life.
Yeah. Well, what I love about it is getting to walk alongside a congregation and individuals as they find their way into whatever future God has for them. And that takes many forms. You know that.
Yeah.
That's the richest part of the experience for me. I enjoy preaching and teaching. I enjoy being invited into people's lives as they find their way. The people part of it is also the hardest part for me because I'm a true introvert, and every now and then you guys wear me out. I just have to go rest.
Yes.
But I always come back.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing, the ability to step away from some of the demands and the responsibilities. And so one of the really important things for ministers then is you've got to have some favorite hobbies and activities. So what are some of those for you?
Well, anything that brings focus. That's what works for me. I rest best if I shift focus. So reading is big with me. According to my family lore, I was reading before I started school.
Sure, yeah.
And I just kept it up. So I love serious biographies, political history, ecclesiastical history. I also enjoy a wide range of fiction, but my heart's given to fantasy and science fiction. It is a release for me to enter into those worlds. Some books have been pretty important in shaping me. over the years. So reading is huge. I also enjoy golf, not because I'm good at it, but because if you don't focus, you can't play. And when I play golf, I can't really think about much else.
Yeah.
And I enjoy as well walking and exercise. So I make myself work out throughout a week.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Yeah. And so those kind of things are always really important. Now, Bruce mentioned earlier that one of your favorite books, sci-fi series, fantasy series, I guess, is Lord of the Rings. Yes. What draws you to the Lord of the Rings?
Well, I read the Lord of the Rings when I was an 8th grader. I had been confined to bed for about 3 weeks with a given illness, and I just read the entire book at that time. What drew me to it was Tolkien's amazing ability to create a world that felt real. The idea that there was more history in back of this world that I didn't know, and that he wasn't going to tell me anytime soon. And then just the idea of the quest.
Yes.
It's huge with me.
Yeah.
Tolkien, without meaning to, probably influenced my Christian journey quite a bit. Lewis later contributed to that. The Cloister Walk by Norris was a pivotal book for me.
Okay.
Things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. Just some silly kind of background sort of things to know. You probably haven't been a preacher your whole life. What was your first job?
My first job outside of farm work was at a little country store where I stocked the shelves, swept the floor, swept the parking lot, pumped gas, and rang up groceries.
Okay.
It was actually a pretty good training ground for ministry, if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had my first job was at a Kroger, so similar sort of background. If you came with a warning label, what would it say?
Well, I'm going to draw on the Harry Potter series for this. There's a character in that series named Hermione, and she's the studious one of the threesome throughout the series. A few years ago, a company started marketing shirts with her photo on the shirt, and the shirt read, "I read, and I know things."
Yeah.
That would be my warning.
Okay, yeah, that's fun. Now, this one's a little bit off script, but a lot of our folks like to give gifts.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to bring you a gift, let's say you could eat it, what would be some of your favorite foods, desserts, snacks?
Okay. That's a loaded question, but basically if it has chocolate in it, I eat it. So that's a safe, sweet. I'm a very basic food person. Burgers, bacon, soups of all kinds. Any kind of soup, I'm probably going to eat.
Okay.
And I'm fond of Mexican food.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you for being here with us and for spending these next however many months as our transitional pastor. We very much look forward to having you here. We're excited about these next few months together. And so thanks for this time, for a few minutes that we can post on the internet and help some of our folks know you a little bit better. And we hope that can kind of serve as a little bit of a springboard until some of them can get to know you a little more in person as we continue to come out of the pandemic and spend a little more time together. So thanks for being here, and we're excited to have you with us during this time.
Well, thank you, Chad. I'm looking forward to it as well.
All right.